صلوات. مسلم کے دونوں بچے در در بتک رہے ہیں، باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں. مسلم کے دونوں بچے در در بتک رہے ہیں، باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں. نیلے پڑے ہیں چہرے اتنے لگے تماچے، کوئی نہیں جو ان کو پانی تلک پلا دے. یہ کیسی بے کسی ہے روتے ہیں شاہزادے، باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں. مسلم کے دونوں بچے در در بتک رہے ہیں، باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں. کوفے کی تنگ گلیاں اور رات ہے اندھیری، اتنے چلے ہیں پیدل پاؤں بھی ان کے زخمی. ایک دوسرے سے بولے کیا ہے یہی یتیمی، باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں. مسلم کے دونوں بچے در در بتک رہے ہیں، باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں. دیکھا جو ایک ضعیفہ اڑے چاند سے دو بچے، بولی کہ شاہزادو تم لاڈلے ہو کس کے؟ ہم ہیں یتیم مسلم. رو کے یہ دونوں بولے باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں. مسلم کے دونوں بچے در در بتک رہے ہیں، باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں. کافی دنوں سے دونوں سوئے نہ تھے سکون سے، راتوں کو جاگتے تھے رکھتے تھے دن میں روزے. جب گھر کی یاد آتی دونوں لپٹ کے کہتے باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں. مسلم کے دونوں بچے در در بتک رہے ہیں، باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں. زلفیں پکڑ کے حارث لے کر چلا جو گھر سے، تھرا رہے تھے دونوں اس بدگوہر کے در سے. فریاد کر رہے تھے کچھ رحم ہم پہ کھاؤ باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں مسلم کے دونوں بچے در در بتک رہے ہیں باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں تلوار کھینچ جس دم دونوں لگے یہ کہنے کر قتل مجھ کو پہلے کر قتل مجھ کو پہلے لو ہو گیا جدا سر دونوں کے آج تن سے باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں مسلم کے دونوں بچے در در بتک رہے ہیں باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں سرداشت میں رکھا اور دریا میں پھینکی لاشیں بڑھ کر گلے میں ڈالی ایک دوسرے نہ باہے جا کر ملے خدا سے کرتے رہے یوں آہیں باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں مسلم کے دونوں بچے در در بتک رہے ہیں باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں دیکھا نہ ایسا منظر نوشاد آسمان کوفے میں جیسی دیکھی روداد آسمان روئے زمین اور کی فریاد آسمان باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں مسلم کے دونوں بچے در در بتک رہے ہیں باقی رہے نہ بابا ماں سے بچھڑ گئے ہیں صلوات
رحم الله من قرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا والشفيع لذنوبنا وتبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. وفقنا الله وإياكم بعلم وعمل صالح إن شاء الله، بذكر الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. أما بعد، فقد قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When answering the question, what exactly caused the failure to the mission of Muslim ibn Aqil alayhi salam, you find that there are a number of answers that have been given by historians. Some of these answers are correct, some of these answers are false, and they're fabrications, which belittles the position of Muslim ibn Aqil. You find, for example, when it comes to our relationship and our association with the other madhahib within the religion of Islam, in particular or in specific with the Ahl al-Salaf, the Wahhabi movement, when you look at their version of Karbala and their version of how Imam Husayn alayhi salam stood against Yazid ibn Muawiyah, they are very quick to judge and to say that Abu Abdullah alayhi salam's revolution against Yazid was false. And it was built on false premises. And in fact, for him to stand against Yazid ibn Muawiyah, he deserved to be killed. And Yazid was right in his movement or in his reaction to killing Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. When you ask the question why, they say it is because within the religion of Islam, as it has been based on the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala, a person cannot stand against the hukuma of his time, regardless if the Imam is adil or ja'ir. It doesn't matter if he is a just leader or an oppressive leader. The fact is that no one has the right to stand against the leader of their time. And the fact that Yazid ibn Muawiyah became officially the king or the caliph of the Muslim Ummah, his khilafah was established. It was then wajib upon Husayn ibn Ali alayhi salam to give bay'ah to Yazid. And the fact that he stood against Yazid ibn Muawiyah was, or in one way or another, he was well deserved to be killed by Yazid. And you find that Ahmad ibn Hanbal is of this opinion when he writes letters to many of the scholars in his time that a person does not have the right to stand against the oppressive leader of his time. And this was a movement that was established by the Banu Umayyah, a fabrication that entered the religion of Islam from their time specifically. So from the Wahhabi movement, Ibn Taymiyyah is of this opinion very strongly. His stance against the movement of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam is very well known. He says that Imam al-Husayn made a mistake and he was killed by the sword of his grandfather. And the fact was that he had to give bay'ah to Yazid. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, for example, is of the same opinion as well, the students of Ibn Taymiyyah. And even today you find that the normal Wahhabi will believe that Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam deserved to be killed. Beyond that, when you look at, for example, the different sermons and sayings of Zainab salamullahi alayha, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. She famously says when she enters the streets of Kufa, she turns to the people of Kufa, she delivers a few sermons, and she says that you collectively came together and you killed certain individuals from Ma'adin al-Risala, from the household which was the recipients of revelation. The house in which revelation was revealed, you are the ones that came together and you slaughtered them. So she turns towards the people of Kufa and she says that you collectively are responsible for killing Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. So now you had historians who came forward and said, well, the people of Kufa were responsible for the killing of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. And yet, before that, they were responsible for the killing of Muslim ibn Aqil. So when the question arises, why did Muslim ibn Aqil fail in his mission? Or why did his mission fail specifically? It is because the Shias of Kufa did not give him the support. And in turn, the Shias of Kufa are responsible for the killing of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Beyond that, further evidence is on the 10th of Muharram, the army of Umar ibn Sa'd, many of them, about 90% of his army, demographics of his army were Kufans. And the Kufans, they were known to be the allies of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. So automatically they put all of these pieces together and they said that the Shias of Kufa were responsible for the killing of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Beyond that, the Wahhabis came forward and they said, look, because the Shias were responsible for killing Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, it goes on to say that we, the Ahl Salaf, have more love towards Abu Abdullah than you, Shia. And the fact that you mourn and you cry and you lament during the days of Muharram is testimony that you feel remorse for the actions that you committed on the 10th of Muharram when you slaughtered your own Imam. You cry because you are remorseful. We are the true lovers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Our scholars came forward and responded very strongly and at times very harshly towards these statements. And we said, and there's a lengthy discussion behind this, who exactly slaughtered or who exactly killed Abu Abdullah alayhi salam? And it was most definitely not the Shias of Kufa. And there are many evidences surrounding this. When you read the actual historical aspects of what led towards Karbala, we come to the conclusions that the Shias of Kufa had nothing to do with the slaughter of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. In fact, you find that the true Shias were alongside Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam. So what are these evidences? The first evidence is that who said that Kufa was a Shia city in the first place? Who said that Shias were associated with Kufa? Because usually we have this even in the way we talk. In certain cultures, for example, as an insult we would say that this person is like a Shia of Kufa. Whereas in reality we see that the Shias were nowhere to be seen in Kufa. The Shias are those who love Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. The Shias are those who are the true followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. The historical records tell us that even in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam, he saw that his Shias were not in great amount. There were a handful of Shias that supported him. What's the evidence to this? The evidence of this is on the day of his martyrdom. On the night of his martyrdom, he turns to his sons, Imam al-Hassan as well as Imam al-Husayn, and he tells them, bury me in the darkness of the night. Why bury him in the darkness of the night? If Kufa is a Shia city, and all of the people are his supporters, then why did the Imam include within his wasiyah to be buried in the darkness of the night? Imam al-Hassan as well as Imam al-Husayn alayhim as-salam, they carry the body of his father in the darkest hours of the night, and they bury him in a location which was unknown to the rest of the people in Kufa. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu was-salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, he was in his time as the Imam uncovers and discloses the grave of his grandfather Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. For 6 generations, no one knew where the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was. Why did the Imam ask to be buried in the darkest hours of the night if his city of Kufa were Shias and his followers? Ahsantum. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. This is the first area. The second area is the behavior that we have towards Karbala and the shrines, not just in Karbala but in other cities as well. If the Ahl al-Salaf come forward and they say that they love the Ahl al-Bayt more than the Shi'as themselves, then how do they respect the shrines of certain individuals? Given the opportunity, they would come and demolish the shrines of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, given the opportunity. And this has happened when Daesh, for example, formed their battalions towards the different cities in Iraq, Samarra, Kadhimiya, as well as Karbala. You found that the Shias themselves made it a responsibility upon themselves to go and guard these cities. culture, nationality, all of this was thrown aside. But the love of the Ahlul Bayt was what? Brightened in their hearts, and they came and they stood in defense of these holy shrines. So you realize that when you come towards the position of the Ahlul Salaf, given the chance and the opportunity, they would demolish the shrines like they did in Baqi'. And Baqi', they did not hesitate to demolish the shrines. Not only that, but in history, 18 times, from the time Karbala was formed, 18 times the Bani Abbas, as well as the ulama, as well as the hukam, as well as the leaders that came after, tried to demolish the shrines of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. In 1991, for example, Saddam Hussein, when he barged into Karbala, you still have the bullet signs in the walls as evidence that Karbala has constantly been attacked. The Shias have been killed and have been victims of this senseless acts of aggression and violence. Yet our heart never stops visiting the shrines of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. So you realize that when it comes to demonstrating the love of the Imam alayhi salam, as well as supporting and associating with the Imam, the Shias is much more greater than the Ahl Salaf. Beyond that, you find, for example, how we interact with the Imam alayhi salam. Specifically when it comes to the idea of Ashura. What happens on the day of Ashura? We collectively get together and we mourn the incident of what happened in Karbala on the 10th of Muharram. Yet you find that the Muslim Ummah celebrates the 10th of Muharram. Why do they celebrate the 10th of Muharram? Because of one narration in which the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes certain teachings from other religions. From the Jewish faith, he takes certain teachings and he incorporates it within the religion of Islam. That's why the entire Muslim Ummah celebrate the 10th of Muharram. People get married on the 10th of Muharram. It is seen as a day of celebration, a day of Eid, because of one hadith where the Prophet took a particular teaching from the Jewish faith, as in which takes precedence. Celebrating based on a Jewish practice, or lamenting and mourning for Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, who is seen as the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And finally, some of the evidences provided by the ulama, they say, well, look what happened on the 10th of Muharram. If you come forward and you claim that the Shias were those who executed Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, well, hold on a second. A Shia is someone who follows the Imam alayhi salam, who has respect, who is the slave of the Imam. A person who actively kills the Imam is not from amongst the Shia of the Imam alayhi salam. The Shias of the Imam, they were there alongside Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. The likes of Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, the likes of Muslim ibn Awsaj, Habib ibn Madahir, Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyah. Last minute he changes his position, his maqam, and he becomes one of the Shahadat. These were the Shias of Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam. And they made it their mission to join the Imam alayhi salam. The likes of Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, that choice was taken away from him, Han ibn Urwa, Muslim ibn Aqil, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to the designing or the examination of as to why the mission of Muslim ibn Aqil failed, it is because the people of Kufa, they turned their backs towards Muslim and his movement. It's interesting because they sent 18,000 letters towards Muslim. Among certain scholars like Khawarizmi, they say 25,000 letters were sent towards Muslim. 25,000 letters, but then eventually they moved away from their positions and they moved away from the movement of Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam. So this was the first interpretation. Muslim ibn Aqil, his mission failed because he was betrayed by the people of Kufa, who had nothing to do with the religion and the loyalty towards their Imam. The second was more towards Ibn Ziyad. Now the second opinion said Ibn Ziyad was very cunning. Now cunning, when you say a person is cunning, it means that that person is smart, but in an evil way. He's very smart, but evil. Muawiyah was a very cunning person. Politically, he was evil, but he was very smart and very cunning. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in Nahj al-Balagha says, I too can be cunning, but that is beneath me. And I am better than that. I can turn and I can behave with him according to how he behaves, according to his identity and characteristics, but that's beneath me. That's not my quality and my identity as an Imam. And so the Imam behaves with Muawiyah with honor, with dignity. You find Ibn Ziyad was no different. He was smart. He was a politician, but he was very cunning, very evilly smart. What does he do? They say he was cunning simply because he entered the city of Kufa and he disguised himself as Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Our scholars came forward and said, no, Ibn Ziyad was not a cunning person. Politically, he wasn't very smart. It was quite the opposite. Why? They say because Ibn Ziyad, when he entered the city of Kufa, he never anticipated that the people would identify him as Abu Abdullah. He entered with a hoodie, he entered covering his face, but he never anticipated for a moment that the people would misidentify him as Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. It was sheer luck. It was luck, and he played it along. He waved, he surfed the wave until he enters the palace of Kufa. When he enters the palace of Kufa, the military are now with him, so he has the power, and he abuses that power. The terrorist activities that he engages in after shows that it was pure luck that he enters the city of Kufa and he's misidentified as Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. The ulama, they said that if the people had known that he was not Abu Abdullah and he was Ibn Ziyad, they would have struck him as he was walking towards the palace of Kufa. He would have been killed on the spot. Why? Because Muslim ibn Aqil came forward in public and he was fearing the hearts. He was lighting the fire of revolution in the hearts of the people. The people were with Muslim ibn Aqil until Ibn Ziyad came along and he began to bribe them and kill them and imprison them until he broke their spirit and loyalty towards Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. So when it comes to the opinion with regards to the cunning nature of Ibn Ziyad, we say that Ibn Ziyad was not cunning at all. It was just sheer luck, and he surfed the wave until he had power in his hands. And then you have the third opinion. The third opinion is a lengthy opinion which goes into the akhlaq of Muslim ibn Aqil. Why did Muslim's mission fail? It is because of his dignity. It is because of his honor, his principles, his disciplines that he established and he held on to it. Regardless of what benefits he saw, he said to himself that my principles and my loyalty towards Abu Abdullah always comes forth. Now there's a prelude towards this discussion. There's a hadith of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Pay attention to this hadith because this hadith is significant. It's phenomenal. Abu Abdullah comes forward and he says, Inna nas abid ad-dunya. He says the people collectively of this world are the slaves of this world. He doesn't say some people are the slaves of this world. He says, Inna nasa abid ad-dunya. That people are the slaves of this world. Majority of the people. It doesn't mean that all people. It doesn't mean some people. He says majority of the people are the slaves of this world. We see this elsewhere in the Holy Quran. In the Holy Quran, Allah says, Inna nas wal asr. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. He says that majority of the people are fi khusr. Inna nasa fil khusr. That majority of the people are in the state of khusran. They've lost dunya as well as akhirah. Allah doesn't say all people. He doesn't say some people. He says majority of the people are in the state of loss. Likewise, Abu Abdullah alayhi salam comes forward and he says, Inna nas abid ad-dunya. The people are the slaves of this world. La'ku wa deenu la'ku ala al-sinatihim. And deen, a religion, is on the tip of their tongues. Al-la'q is a very specific word. When you taste something, you take that particular food, not even a morsel, like a speck of that food, you place it on your tongue. You taste it, but it doesn't infuse into your body. It doesn't give you energy. It doesn't mold into your limbs or doesn't turn into any benefit for you whatsoever. It says for these people, deen is just on their tongues. Now what here the Imam alayhi salam is explaining is that there are three types of Muslims. The first type of Muslim is a person whose religion is on the tip of their tongue. What does this mean specifically? He says, يَحِيتُونَ مَا دَرَّتْ مَعَايِشُهُمْ فَإِذَا مُحِسُّ بِالْبَلَاءِ قَلَّ الدَّيَّانُونَ. He says, these people, they just live their lives. Religion is not a part of their lives. It's not part of their thinking. It's not a part of their aql. It's not a part of their actions. They have separated themselves from religion, but they identify themselves as Muslims. You have a person, he identifies himself as a Muslim, but he has nothing to do with the religion of Islam. When something good happens to them in their lives, they come forward in public and they say, we are Muslims. And it is because of our Islam that these good have entered our lives. And then he says, but when evil comes towards them, when they suffer and certain adversities come towards them, they are very quick in turning their backs upon religion. They move away from Allah, they move out of religion. Abu Abdullah alayhi salam bases this from the ayah of the Holy Quran. Beautifully, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ. It says there are those amongst the people, they worship Allah based on their words. Based on their words. They come forward and they say that we believe in Tawheed and Nabuwa and Imamah and so on and so forth. But these are nothing but words. Islam is not a part of their lives at all. فَإِنْ أَصَابَهُ خَيْرٌ اطْمَأَنَّ بِهِ. But when something good happens, they become happy and they associate this with their religion. It is because we are Muslims that these good have come towards us. وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ فِتْنَةٌ. But when fitna comes along in their lives, انقلب على وجه. They fall on their faces. And then Allah says, خَسِرَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. They have lost dunya and they have lost akhirah. What does this mean that they've lost dunya and akhirah? Khusran of dunya and akhirah. The ulama came forward and they said that the religion of Islam is a perfect religion. It is a religion where a person can establish eternal happiness in dunya as well as in akhirah. When a person moves away from religion, he will never taste happiness in dunya and he will never taste happiness in akhirah. We have all of these discussions, yes, mental health. People are suffering silently, they're mentally unwell. One of the greatest reasons as to why there's a misbalance or there's an imbalance in the mental well-being of the people is because people have lost a higher purpose in their lives. People have lost a divine link in their lives. They don't have a higher purpose to aim towards. When a person sees this world only from the materialistic lenses, that nothing exists beyond the material, that there is no spiritual, that there is no metaphysical, that there is no ruh, there is no nafs, you find that there is a vacuum that engages in their lives. There's a vacuum which they try and fill from all of the things around them. They start abusing drugs and alcohol. They start abusing certain things in their lives simply to fill this vacuum. Whereas those who have a higher purpose and they realize that they have a mission within this world, you find that they are istiqlal, they're mustaqil, they are stagnant and they have stability in their lives. So you find here, the Imam alayhi salam says that when things happen and when things are good in their lives, they associate it towards religion. But when bad things happen to them, they associate it towards religion. This verse was revealed because of a group of Arabs. They came towards the religion of Islam. They became Muslims. The tafsir of this verse says that these groups of Arabs, some of them, Allah gave them good health, afiyah. Allah gave them good horses, good rides. Allah gave them wealth. Allah gave them sons. They turned to Rasulullah and they said, it is because we became Muslims that Allah has benefited us with all of these different bounties. And then there were a group of Muslims. When they entered the religion of Islam, Allah took away health. Allah took away their horses. Allah took away their wealth. And Allah gave them daughters instead of sons. And they said that this is because we have become Muslims, and they moved away from the religion of Islam. They rejected the religion of Islam. Something good happens, it is because of Islam. Something bad happens, it is because of Islam. This is the first group of believers, those who believe in Allah, but purely based on words, not on action. The second are groups of believers who are considered to be mutadayyinin. They are considered to be believers. They follow the religion of Islam. They accept in the message of Tawheed. They have knowledge, but there are two problems that these people face. They have knowledge, but they don't have enough knowledge to live their lives. This is the first problem. The second problem, the first problem is with regards to their jahal. They are ignorant in certain areas of their religion. When it comes to their ahkam, they don't have enough knowledge to understand their ahkam. They understand that Islam is the true religion, Islam is the right religion, but they don't understand the fact that Islam is a religion for every dimension of our lives. What differentiates Islam from all the other religions? What differentiates Islam from all the other religions is that Islam enters every dimension of our lives. If you want to keep a pet in your house, Islam has certain rulings behind this. If you want to enter the washroom, there are certain rulings behind this, certain etiquettes, certain adab. If there are certain actions you've performed, there are certain cleansing rituals that you have to perform. If you want to sleep, sleep is not something that we voluntarily do. Sleep is something that happens. It overpowers us. Allah in the Holy Quran explains that you human beings are weak because sleep overpowers you. We can try and neglect sleeping, but some point in the future we'll end up sleeping. Allah says, look how weak you are as a human being. Sleep overpowers you. When Allah compares Himself to the human being, He says, وَلَا نَوْمْ وَلَا سِنَةٌ وَلَا نَوْمْ. In Ayat al-Kursi, Allah says that sinner is when you momentarily fall asleep, even for a fraction of a second. He says this does not even happen to Allah. Naum does not overpower, sleep does not overpower Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it comes to sleep, which is a perfectly normal aspect of our lives, there are certain etiquettes and adab behind it. Islam enters every dimension of our religion. Here, these groups of believers, they understand that Islam is the true religion, but they do not have enough knowledge to live their lives based on the principles of Islam. The second problem that these believers face is Shaitan al-La'in al-Rajim. Shaitan doesn't work on those who are less in their religion, the irreligious. Shaitan works on the religious. He establishes doubt in their hearts, doubt in their aqidah, and doubt in their ahkam. It's difficult for them to follow and to practice certain areas of the religion of Islam. All of this is the attacks of Shaitan. It pushes the person away from the religion of Islam. Wudu, salah, ghusl, all of this becomes heavy on the person because Shaitan attacks the person through kathrat al-shak. Aqidah, a person may question Tawheed, a person may question the principles of divine justice. Shaitan builds this in their hearts until they are ready to move away from the religion of Islam. When a person establishes or when a person is attacked by Shaitan, he has a number of different solutions in his hands. The first solution is that he can act according to his jahal, in which case he performs a sin. Sometimes he moves away from the religion of Islam. At times he may refer to a person who is also a jahil to try and shift the blame to that person. At times he may study and gain knowledge about the religion of Islam and establish knowledge and behave according to what is found based on his research. Or at times he may say to himself, I don't have the knowledge to research, but I will refer to a person who is far more knowledgeable than I. The fuqaha in this respect is a perfectly normal thing to do, to refer to a marja, to refer to a person who is skilled in certain areas of the religion of Islam, to always refer to a person who is a professional in that field, that specific field. The third type of believer, as understood by this hadith, is a person who is a religious person, mutadayyin, but is a faqih as well. Muslim ibn Aqil was not just a person who was a supporter of Aba Abdullah, he was a faqih. He was a person who knew his Islam. And every choice that he made was based on the principles of Islam. Was it within the boundaries of Islam or was it not within the boundaries of Islam? Our scholars came forward and said, if he had made certain choices, the mission of Aba Abdullah would have succeeded, but at the same time he would have sacrificed certain disciplines of the religion of Islam. Like what? Like when Ibn Ziyad came into the house of Hani ibn Urwa. Muslim ibn Aqil moves to the house of Hani ibn Urwa. There's a man by the name of Sharik. Sharik is very sick. He's bedridden. They say Sharik, he had shiddat al-hub. He had intensive, extensive hub for Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. His love, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala His love and his mawadda for the Ahlul Bayt was unequal. At the same time, he had certain relationships with the Bani Umayyah. They say Muawiyah respected him to a certain aspect, to a certain level, as well as Ibn Ziyad. When Ibn Ziyad finds out that Sharik is in the house of Hani ibn Urwa, he says, I want to go see him. I have to meet him to show my respect. A messenger is sent towards Hani's house. Ibn Ziyad, the governor of Kufa, is going to come and visit Sharik. Sharik is shocked. He turns to Muslim. He says, Muslim, no one knows that you're in the house of Hani. Hide behind the closet. Hide yourself. Ibn Ziyad will come into this house. He will sit here. I will speak with him. Come behind him and strike him. Kill him. When you strike him and when you kill him, Basra will be in our hands. Go towards the palace in Kufa. Kufa will now come into your hands as well. Can you imagine if Basra and Kufa had come under the authority of Aba Abdullah alayhi salam? Karbala would have not been as what we know of today. Karbala would have had a completely different narrative. If Muslim ibn Aqil had killed Ibn Ziyad, one simple act. Ibn Ziyad comes, he sits, he speaks with Sharik. Han ibn Urwa is there. Muslim hides behind the curtains or behind the clothes or whatever it is. They say Ibn Ziyad moved his face away from Hani, moved his face away from Sharik. When he moved away from Sharik, Sharik began engaging in some ishara. Some signals were given to Muslim. Now come, kill him. Muslim doesn't move. Ibn Ziyad, when he sees Sharik from the side of his eye, behaving in a very erratic way, he says to himself, the behavior of all of them around me is not normal. He packs his things and he leaves. And then later on, after investigation, he realizes that Muslim was in the house of Hani. When Ibn Ziyad leaves, Muslim comes out. And Sharik says to him, Muslim, you had such a beautiful opportunity. There were no guards. No one was around him. You could have killed him there and then. Why didn't you? Muslim responds, he says, because I have heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi say, Allahumma salli ala. He says, Imanu qayd al-fatak, wa la yaftiku al-mu'min. That a mu'min does not kill another person when that person is off guard. There is no honor and there is no dignity when you kill a person in that state. There is no honor and no dignity. Muslim ibn Aqil al-Faqih, he understands how this will have an impact on the movement of Aba Abdullah. The end for him does not justify the means. Today the politicians, they'll invade, they will conquer, a lot of collateral damage will take place in between. Yes, but the ends justify the means. In Islam, the ends never justify the means. Muslim ibn Aqil realizes, he says, if I had killed Ibn Ziyad, when he did not know of my presence, how does that make me different from the Bani Umayyah? How does that make the Ahl al-Bayt different from the Bani Umayyah? The Bani Umayyah were known to kill. And their way of killing, there was no honor, there was no respect, there was no dignity in it whatsoever. Karbala is a prime example. When Qasim, Aun and Muhammad, you think they had a one-on-one battle? Many people got together and they jumped on these children and they killed these children. Abbas alayhi salam was struck from behind. He wasn't struck from front. The Bani Umayyah, their style is to kill and to take away their enemies at whatever cost. For them to kill in an honorable way, in a dignified way, does not even exist. It's not part of their playbook. But for the Ahl al-Bayt, it is essential that when they kill and they engage in battle, it is done honorably and with dignity. He says, how will that make me different from the Bani Umayyah? Number two, he says, even then, if I was to kill Ibn Ziyad, the news will come out to the people. How did Ibn Ziyad die? They will say, Muslim killed him from behind. He says, how will that have an impact on the movement of Aba Abdullah? Aba Abdullah reached the stages of Khilafah by behaving the same way as the Bani Umayyah did. by attacking Ibn Ziyad from behind. He says, no, we have to be different than them. Regardless of the ramifications this has, it behooves that I do not behave the way they behave. It is for this reason that Muslims' mission failed, because of his fuqaha, because of his knowledge, and how Islam had a principled position in his life. His disciplines is what makes him remember, is what we remember him for. Not that he is a normal companion of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. The Imam, there's a reason why the Imam says that Muslim is a thiqa from my Ahl al-Bayt. He is someone that I trust and respect from my family. Tonight are the nights of the sons of Muslim ibn Aqil. They say that the two sons of Muslim ibn Aqil, they were imprisoned by Ibn Ziyad. The warden of the prison, they say the two sons, they came towards the warden and they said, look, you misbehave with us. You're treating us in such a nasty way. Do you know who we are? He says, no, I don't know who you are. He says, we are the sons of Muslim. We are the grandsons of Rasulullah. We are from the family of the Ahl al-Bayt. The warden begins to cry. He says, I have love and respect for the Ahl al-Bayt. He says, tonight I will make sure that you are released from the prisons. In the night time, the warden opens the gates and the two children escape. They escape into the streets of Kufa, but they don't get very far. Upon which the older brother turns to the younger one. He says, look, we're hungry. Let's knock on a door. Maybe perhaps they will be kind enough to host us for the night, and then we will continue our journey in the morning. They knock on the door, and then old woman opens. The old woman, she sees the two children. She invites them to her house. She speaks with them. She converses with them. She turns to them. She says, I can smell an aroma that I've never smelled before. Tell me who you are. They say to her, O woman, if we tell you, do not go and tell anyone else. She says, tell me who you are. They say, we are the sons of Muslim. She says, we are the followers of Muslim. The woman says, she says, I love the Ahl al-Bayt. And my Amir was Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. But my husband, he is someone who hates the Ahl al-Bayt. They stay for the night. The husband comes home. When the husband comes home late in the evening, the wife says to her husband, she says, what are you doing home? Aren't you supposed to be working and guarding? He says something's happened and the sons of Muslim ibn Aqil have escaped. Ibn Ziyad has offered 2,000 dinars for their heads. They go to sleep. In the middle of the night, the younger brother wakes up crying. He wakes up crying, and then he turns to the older brother, wakes him up, and he says, oh my brother, I saw our father in my dream. And he said to me, it's now time to come towards us. Your grandfather Rasulullah awaits you. They both start to cry. The husband wakes up and he says, what is that noise in the house? When he enters the room, he sees the two children. He recognizes them as the children of Muslim ibn Aqil. He ties their hands and he takes them out towards the outskirts of Kufa. He takes them towards the river Furat. He turns to the slave. He tells the slave, go and slaughter these two children. The slave, he runs away. He then turns to his son. He says, my son, go and slaughter these two children. The son runs away as well. Then he unsheathes his sword. He comes towards the two children. And these two children, they're crying. The eldest son, he turns to the man. He says, oh man, why do you want to kill us? Why such adamance towards killing us? He says, I wish to gain profit from Ibn Ziyad. He says, oh man, then take us to Ibn Ziyad. Don't kill us. Take us alive to Ibn Ziyad. Perhaps Ibn Ziyad will let us live and he will reward you amply. He says, no, Ibn Ziyad has ordered for your heads and I will give him your heads. He says, oh man, then take us towards the markets. Sell us and you'll get more money than 2,000 dinars. He says, no, profit from Ibn Ziyad is worth much more than what I get from the markets. He says, "Oh man, then have mercy on us, we're children." And the man replies, he says, "There's no mercy for the sons of Muslim." He then says to the man, the eldest son says to the man, he says, "If that's the case, then give us a chance to recite 2 rak'at salah." Just as how their father Muslim recited 2 rak'at salah. When they finish reciting the salah, the eldest son turns to the man, he says, "Oh man, strike me first." He says, "Why should I strike you first?" He says, "I cannot bear to see the heat of the blade striking the neck of my younger brother. Strike me first." The man strikes the eldest brother. He then takes the head and he places it in the bag. The younger brother, when he sees the older brothers beheaded in front of him, he takes some of the blood and he wipes it on his clothes. And he says, "In this state I will meet my grandfather Rasulullah." Then the man strikes the younger son. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. They say the man, when he takes the head towards Ibn Ziyad, when he sees the head of the two children, he turns to the man and he says, "Did you not have mercy on them?" And the man says, "No, there was no mercy for them." Ibn Ziyad says to him, he says, "Did they beg for mercy?" He says, "They begged for mercy, but there was no mercy for them." Ibn Ziyad said to the man, he said, "If you had brought them alive for me, I would have doubled your reward." He then turns to his army and he said, "Which from amongst you will strike this man for me?" A man from Sham stood forward and he said, "Ibn Ziyad, I will strike you for him. I will strike him for you." They took the man towards the river Furat, where he struck the two children and he was struck on the neck. He lost dunya as well as akhirah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة.
Ya Husayn, 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 Ya Husayn. मुझ पे क्यों बंद करते हो पानी, क्या मोहम्मद का प्यारा नहीं हूँ? मुझ पे क्यों बंद करते हो पानी, क्या मोहम्मद का प्यारा नहीं हूँ? मुझ पे क्यों बंद करते हो पानी, क्या मुझ पे क्यों बंद करते हो पानी, कलमा गोयो मोहम्मद के शामी, क्या मैं मेहमान आया नहीं हूँ, क्या मैं ज़हरा का जाया नहीं हूँ? मुझ पे क्यों बंद करते हो पानी, क्या मोहम्मद का प्यारा नहीं हूँ? मुझ पे क्यों बंद करते हो पानी। मेरा बाबा है मुश्किल कुशा, मेरा बाबा है मुश्किल कुशा, मेरी मादर भी है सैयदा, मेरा बेटा है ज़ैनुल लिबा, میرا بیٹا ہے زین اللبا، میرے نانا کا کلمہ پڑھا، جس کے سائے کو تم ڈھونڈتے ہو، کیا میں اس کا ہی سایہ نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی؟ تم نے مکتوب لکھے کہیں، تم نے مکتوب لکھے کہیں، آئیے جلد ابن علی، دین کی روشنی کم ہوئی، دین کی روشنی کم ہوئی، شمع اسلام بجھنے لگی، تم نے چاہا تھا میں آ گیا ہوں، خود مدینے سے آیا نہیں ہوں، مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی؟ دسترس میں میری کیا نہیں، دسترس میں میری کیا نہیں، علم تقوی شجاعت یقین، میرے پیروں کے نیچے زمین، میرے پیروں کے نیچے زمین، جس پہ رکھے فرشتے جبیں، میں ہی سردار اہل جناں ہوں، کوئی ٹوٹا ستارہ نہیں ہوں، مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی؟ میری گردن پہ خنجر چلے، میری گردن پہ خنجر چلے، آگ لگتی ہے گھر میں لگے، بنت زہرا کی چادر چھینے، بنت زہرا کی چادر چھینے، ہاتھ دوں گا نہ اپنا تمہیں، ہاتھ دوں گا نہ اپنا تجھے، ہاتھ میرا یہ دست خدا ہے، میں تو منکر خدا کا نہیں ہوں، مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ ساتھ زہرا کی ہیں بیٹیاں، ساتھ زہرا کی ہیں بیٹیاں، محترم ان کا کوئی کہاں، پیاس کی دھوپ کی سختیاں، پیاس کی دھوپ کی سختیاں، سب کے چہرے ہوئے ہیں دھواں، بیٹیاں فاطمہ کی ہے پیاسی، صرف ایک میں ہی پیاسا نہیں ہوں، مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی؟ حکم عباس کو دوں اگر، حکم عباس کو دوں اگر، نہر لے آئے وہ چھین کر، کربلا ہوگی زیر و زبر، کربلا ہوگی زیر و زبر، لاش ٹھہرے گی ہر موج پر، میں نہیں چاہتا جنگ کرنا، فوج لڑنے کو لایا نہیں ہوں، مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا؟ گونجی حلمن کی ایسی صدا، گونجی حلمن کی ایسی صدا، شیخ و ریحان کہتے سنا، یا علی یا علی الییا، یا علی یا علی الییا، وقت امداد کا آ گیا، میرے بچے بھی لگتے ہیں پیاس سے، پھر بھی کیا مسکرایا نہیں ہوں، مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں، مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں، یا حسین 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 یا حسین، پر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔